Now, we've managed to track down Joel Fitzgibbon, had a few gremlins with our Skype. We're going to chat to him on the phone. Thanks for joining us, Joel. I appreciate it.
There wasn't a technology failure on my part, mate, I can assure you.
Yeah, no worries. We've had a bit of that around the country as we try and Skype people here and there. I just wanted to get first up your thoughts on the government's package announced earlier this week to try and support regional media. You, obviously, with a regional electorate and as an agriculture spokesperson, are pretty in touch with these issues and how important regional media is. Is this going to save local papers, local radio stations, TV stations, or are they still going to hit the wall?
I think you'd agree, Chris. I've been pretty balanced in my commentary on the government's various coronavirus packages. Some have been good, some have not been without difficulty. This one's too little too late. I mean, these media outlets were in trouble well before the coronavirus, and, you know, we've been urging some change in the regulatory regime for at least 5 or 6 years. Michelle Rowland, my colleague, has been very vocal on this issue, and of course the coronavirus has been like the final nail in the coffin for many. And if we don't do more, we will lose more of these news organisations. And particularly in rural and regional Australia, they are absolutely critical. I mean, they provide the local news that isn't of national significance, but news which is really important to local people. You know, what's happening in the community, what's happening in the local council, you know, what's happening in the local sporting events, who's doing well and who's not doing well there. Of course, they employ a lot of people in our regional towns. I have 10 papers in the region which are now closed until the end of June. Now, that's a lot of jobs under threat as well. And they were marginal businesses, of course, because they have been challenged by these digital platforms, these big global giants like Facebook and Google, which are effectively raping away from them their intellectual property, their media content, without paying anything in return. And of course, that's also diverting advertising revenue away from these news organisations, not just print media, the local mastheads, but also our local commercial radio stations as well. So if we don't do something about this, we're going to lose local content, we're going to lose diversity, and we're going to lose lots of local jobs.
Yeah, and local society, the local connectedness is going to be destroyed as well. It's a massive issue, I agree with you, and it's an urgent one because if something isn't done soon enough on a range of fronts, we're going to lose these media organisations for good. It'll be very, very hard to get them back. I also want to get your thoughts, Joel Fitzgibbon, on the Turnbull book. Most of us haven't read it from cover to cover yet, but we've read copious excerpts in the various media formats. What do you make of what he's had to say?
Well, Chris, I'm finding it both amusing and a little bit sad for Malcolm. I mean, the last thing you want to do to your legacy in politics is to attack just about everyone you ever worked with. And it's a bit sad, but obviously in the Labor Party, we're also enjoying some of the yarns which are going to be damaging for Malcolm's former colleagues, including, of course, the current Prime Minister. I suppose it's fortuitous for the government that the book is being released in the middle of a global pandemic, so it's not going to get the attention it might have done otherwise. But obviously, Malcolm's dead set determined on revenge and retribution, and may that retribution from the Labor Party's perspective go on for some time. But I'll also say, Chris, that, you know, Malcolm obviously was never of the Liberal Party. He shopped himself to the Labor Party, indeed to one of Sky's own, Graham Richardson, many years ago, offering himself as a candidate, and when that didn't work for him, he went shopping elsewhere. So he was never really one of them, and I think that was very obvious in terms of his relationships with his colleagues over the course of the years he was there. And he was never really a natural politician, in my view. Malcolm's got his redeeming features. Obviously, he was a good businessman, a good lawyer, etc., but I don't know that politics was necessarily his natural fit. And I just want to say one more thing. I thought his biggest mistake, the most disappointing thing he ever did, was to deny Kevin Rudd that opportunity to be the Secretary-General of the United Nations. That would have been a big thing for Australia, and politics should not have ever stood in the way of that opportunity.
All right. Well, I disagree with you on that one, but I tell you what...
I thought you might.
I think he and Kevin Rudd are peas in a pod to some degree. I think they're both inflicting a bit of pain in their retirement on their respective parties.
But, Chris, we still celebrate the fact that Doc Evatt chaired the General Assembly of the United Nations all those years ago,
yep.
which was a much less important job as the Secretary General's position. So politics nor personality should have mattered. We should have all collectively grabbed the opportunity to have an Australian acting as Secretary General of the United Nations, and to me, that will be always a regret.
I understand the argument, Joel Fitzgibbon. A lot of people just don't think Kevin Rudd would have been quite the person, but I appreciate your time today on the phone. Have a good weekend.
Thanks very much, Chris.